Not quite up there with the 1947 Roswell incident, but the cow mutilations of the 70s remain one of New Mexico's biggest mysteries.
They said the war ended in 1945, but what if part of it never did? Reports began surfacing from deep in the New Mexico desert. Sightings of flying discs, swastika markings on metal debris, and hidden bunkers filled with technology no one could explain.
Rumor has it there is a secret base hidden underneath the Archuleta Mesa here. The mountain overlooks Dulce. Some people in town say the base is run by aliens working with our federal government to conduct mind control and genetic experiments.
Locals spoke of military cover-ups, strange aircraft hovering at night, and scientists vanishing without a trace. At first, it sounded like just another conspiracy, but then evidence started piling up, too much to ignore. In this video, we're going to explore the discovery that stunned the world, a Nazi UFO base allegedly buried beneath New Mexico's sands. In 1979, a man named Gabe Valdez, a New Mexico State Patrol officer stationed near Dulce, made a discovery that would define his entire career. Valdez wasn't a stranger to the area. He had spent years tracking strange events around Archuleta Mesa. But nothing could have prepared him for what he came across that morning. Another prized cow had been found dead. That alone was unsettling, yet common enough for ranchers in northern New Mexico. But what was inside the carcass left everyone speechless, a malformed fetus that looked part calf, part primate. A veterinarian speaking under anonymity later described it as something that simply should not exist. Word spread quickly across Archuleta Mesa. To the ranchers, it seemed like undeniable proof that someone or something was conducting bizarre experiments that blurred the boundaries between species. And after this shocking discovery, reports began to multiply. Each account seemed to trace back to the same source, the rumored Dulce base, said to be hidden beneath Archuleta Mesa. According to the stories, this base was a joint U.S. military and alien facility where everything from advanced technology to disturbing biological experiments was secretly taking place. Officially, no record of such a base exists, but unofficially, stories kept emerging. Tales of underground firefights, hybrid experiments, and mysterious multi-level structures, all leading back to Dulce. It may not have reached the fame of the 1947 Roswell crash, but the cattle mutilations of the 1970s remain one of New Mexico's most puzzling mysteries. Between the 1970s and late 1990s, the skies over Archuleta Mesa became more than just scenic. They turned into a stage for unexplained activity. The pattern was clear: strange lights, unidentified crafts, and an intensity that grew with every passing year. On June 13, 1979, Dulce rancher Manuel Gomez reported another mutilated cow to Officer Valdez. It was one of several similar cases. Exactly 2 years later, on June 14, 1981, investigators found another mutilated cow, this time with radar chaff scattered nearby. Valdez later said, "Predators don't leave glow sticks or vitamin B12 behind. We know this is highly sophisticated." Later, during a public meeting in Albuquerque, Valdez revealed that the remains contained traces of chlorpromazine, a tranquilizer, suggesting an organized, deliberate operation. By the 1980s, Dulce had become a hotspot for UFO researchers. In one documented case dated October 23, 1988, multiple witnesses, including Valdez and his sons, watched an object glide silently over Archuleta Mesa, hover for several seconds, and then vanish instantly. In one particularly eerie account, a Jicarilla Apache ranger stationed on the mesa reported seeing what looked like a craft enter the rock face, as if the stone wall itself opened to let it in. Residents also described unmarked black helicopters hovering low over ranchlands, tracking strange lights in the sky. Their engines made no sound. On certain nights, travelers claimed to feel an overwhelming sense of unease near the mesa, as if reality itself felt distorted. Add to that the long-standing Native American oral traditions that speak of underground beings beneath the mesa. These weren't bedtime stories. They were warnings passed down through generations, echoing the belief that something unknown existed just below the surface. From the earliest cases of cattle mutilations and sightings of odd, non-human figures to the mysterious lights illuminating the desert nights, the incidents began to form a pattern too consistent to ignore. Between 1976 and the late 1990s, what started as a few isolated events evolved into a deeply unsettling story about Dulce. The question was no longer whether something strange was happening, it was whether the skies were hinting at a hidden truth buried underground. And that's when an insider came forward, revealing secrets so dark that they changed the entire story. But before we get into that, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and don't forget to comment and share your thoughts. Here's what he said. I spent 17 years in black budget programs. Government geologist and engineer, structural engineer with aerospace applications, and a self-taught metallurgist. I became somewhat known in my own field. I'd have a set of notes here, but they're missing after all this chaos. Up here, I've got different artifacts. Some of them are alien metals, produced both on Earth and in outer space, now used in all stealth aircraft, all black jets. In the world of conspiracy lore, few names carry more weight than Phil Schneider. To his supporters, he wasn't just another government contractor, he was a man who paid the ultimate price for revealing the truth. Schneider claimed to have top-level clearance as a geological engineer on secret underground projects across the U.S. But one site buried deep beneath the deserts of Dulce, New Mexico, left him with scars he would never escape. According to Phil Schneider, in 1979 he was assigned to assist in expanding certain sections of the Dulce facility, a location already surrounded by rumors of experiments far beyond human science. He recalled, "We built an underground complex, nearly 3 cubic miles hollowed out beneath the surface. When I saw Green Beret and Black Beret personnel stationed inside our geological camp, I knew something wasn't right. The gig was up. I already knew about the alien agenda, which I'll explain in a moment. The large gray aliens had reportedly been living there for roughly 400 to 500 years. It had been one of their underground bases. We drilled directly into it. As soon as the first hole broke through, foul air and black soot came rushing out. That's when everything went wrong. That's when it all began. It took about 2 days to drill all 4 holes. When constructing an underground base, you typically drill 4 main shafts, then connect them using what are called stopes or cross tunnels. You use blasting gear, specialized equipment based on the rock composition, to tunnel, melt, or deflagrate the stone to carve out the massive rooms needed for the base. During that process, I was lowered down in a basket into one of the shafts, only a short distance from me, maybe as far as that elderly woman sitting in the front row, was a 7-foot-tall gray alien. The smell was unbearable, worse than any garbage can you can imagine. The creature looked horrifying. I didn't hesitate. I reached for my pistol immediately. As an engineer, I didn't carry one of the large submachine guns that the outer and inner perimeter security teams used. I only had an old Walther PPK pistol with a 9-shot clip. This happened in late August of 1979. What started as a normal drilling project quickly spiraled into chaos when workers accidentally broke through a chamber that wasn't listed on any blueprint. From that darkness, Schneider claimed, emerged beings unlike anything he had ever seen. What followed, he said, wasn't confusion or negotiation, it was gunfire. Schneider described a violent firefight deep underground between U.S. soldiers, civilian contractors, and alien entities. The creatures, humanoid but clearly not human, allegedly fought back using energy-based weapons. Schneider claimed that he was struck during the encounter, leaving him with severe scars and missing body parts. He stated that 66 men died that day, including both soldiers and scientists, although no official records exist to verify those deaths. If true, it would represent one of the deadliest cover-ups in modern history. In the years that followed, Schneider began speaking publicly at UFO conferences, revealing details that unsettled even longtime skeptics. According to him, the Dulce base resembled something out of a nightmare, a Frankenstein-style laboratory hidden underground. He often showed his scars, displayed documents, and even presented what he claimed were government identification badges. Schneider insisted that Dulce wasn't just a military installation, but a collaborative site where humans and extraterrestrials worked side by side on projects involving advanced weaponry and genetic experimentation. His talks usually ended with strong warnings that humanity was being deceived, that the government was hiding the truth, and that secrecy posed a greater danger than any alien threat. To his shock, Schneider claimed the government had known about all of it from the beginning. But perhaps the most disturbing part of his story isn't what he said, it's how his life ended. In 1996, Schneider was found dead in his apartment in Oregon. The official ruling was suicide, yet the circumstances were suspicious. He was discovered with a surgical tube tightly wrapped around his neck, but close friends argued he could barely use his hands due to a prior accident. Many believe his death was staged, an effort to silence a man who knew too much. Even now, Phil Schneider is remembered as both a whistleblower and a warning. Was he a disturbed man consumed by paranoia, or an insider revealing truths too unsettling for the public? His accounts of Dulce remain central to the base's legend. Because if what he described really happened, then the firefight of 1979 wasn't a rumor. It was the first open conflict between humans and extraterrestrials on Earth. And that chilling idea raises another question. If such a battle took place, what else could be hidden in the lower levels of Dulce Base, areas Schneider never lived long enough to describe? The issue, according to some, isn't just that there may be one alien civilization visiting Earth, but several, perhaps 5 or even up to 10. Based on Schneider's research, he claimed that at least 90% of these beings are hostile or operate under moral systems entirely different from ours. If the firefight Schneider described was the spark, then the rumors of genetic experimentation at Dulce are the flames that refuse to die. For decades, whispers have spread that beneath the desert of New Mexico lies a network of laboratories where science and nightmare merge. At the center of those claims is a single disturbing idea: that Dulce Base isn't merely a military site, it's a breeding ground. People who claim to have been abducted describe being taken into sterile, dimly lit corridors deep underground. They report seeing enormous tanks filled with thick green fluid. Inside those tanks floated half-formed beings, some almost human, others grotesquely alien. In certain accounts, fetuses were visible inside the fluid, their features an unsettling blend of both species. The message was clear: hybridization. A program designed to merge human DNA with something non-human. The stories don't end there. Several abductees said they heard faint cries echoing through distant rooms, as if captives were being held somewhere nearby. Others claimed they saw surgical tables stained with strange fluids, where experiments were being conducted with cold precision. One detail that appeared again and again in testimonies was the presence of tall, gray-skinned figures silently observing the process, as if humans were nothing more than material to be used. These claims match disturbingly well with wider alien abduction stories. For years, people around the world have described encounters with beings who perform reproductive experiments, extract eggs, force impregnation, and collect sperm samples. Skeptics dismiss such accounts as psychological in nature, but the Dulce testimonies give these claims a far darker setting. What if these were not isolated incidents, but part of a single coordinated project hidden deep within a secret base? Supporters of the Dulce legend believe these hybrids were created for two main purposes. One theory claims they were meant to act as a bridge species, beings able to live comfortably in Earth's atmosphere while retaining alien biology. Another theory suggests something even darker, that these hybrids could be tools of control, a quiet population planted among humans. Whether they were designed as replacements, infiltrators, or simply as an experiment in merging species, the implications are deeply unsettling. Of course, proving any of this is nearly impossible. Still, what gives these accounts weight is how consistent the details are. People who never met describe the same scenes: vats, strange fetuses, and hybrid creatures. Even Phil Schneider hinted that he had seen unnatural life forms in Dulce's deeper levels, though he never gave full details, saying the truth was too horrific for the public. To believers, Dulce isn't just a fortress of secrecy, it's a factory of life, where ethics are abandoned and humans are treated as resources. If even part of these stories is true, the battle Schneider described may not have been about land or access. It may have been an attempt to stop experiments that redefine what it means to be human. That leads to the next question. If hybrids were being created, where were they kept? Some claim the answer lies even deeper in the hidden levels of the Dulce base, where no one has ever returned. If the Dulce base exists, its most disturbing feature isn't what's seen above ground, it's what extends beneath it. Whistleblowers, abductees, and former intelligence officers have all described a similar underground structure, a chain of levels, each more secretive and disturbing than the one above. Reports say the first 2 floors are relatively normal, serving as access points with checkpoints, offices, and surveillance rooms. To anyone visiting, these could easily appear to be part of a standard government installation. But just beneath this ordinary surface, the real nature of Dulce begins to show itself. Levels 3 and 4, according to multiple accounts, were where things took a darker turn. These areas reportedly hosted experiments in mind control and psychological conditioning. Subjects were said to be restrained in rooms filled with high-frequency sounds, flashing lights, and chemical agents designed to break their resistance. Rumors suggest entire programs focused on erasing memories, creating sleeper agents, and testing how far human obedience could be pushed. If true, Dulce wasn't just experimenting with genetics, it was experimenting with control itself. Yet what witnesses claim to have seen on levels 5 and 6 makes even those mind control experiments sound mild in comparison. Accounts describe laboratories dedicated to hybridization and grotesque genetic work. Witnesses say alien beings were openly present in these halls, sometimes overseeing the experiments themselves. Along the walls were vats containing incomplete life forms that defied normal biology, part human, part animal, and part something unknown. Some abductees even claimed they saw living test subjects trapped in cages, their bodies altered beyond recognition. It was on these levels, according to Schneider and others, where human and extraterrestrial cooperation was most visible. Then there's level 7, whispered about even among believers with a mix of fear and caution. Descriptions of this floor are rare, yet they are hauntingly consistent. Witnesses describe it not as a lab, but as a prison, a place for abducted humans who never made it back. Victims allegedly held there were used for experiments, their cries echoing through cold metal corridors. Many of these reports describe level 7 with the same chilling phrase, "No one comes back." Skeptics, of course, point out that there's no verifiable evidence for such a layered underground structure. But believers respond by citing the discovery of tunnel systems under other U.S. bases, which they say supports the Dulce layout. If even a small part of these accounts is true, Dulce represents more than a secret base. It represents a descent into moral decay, each level symbolizing a deeper collapse of ethics. And yet the underground structure is only half the mystery. Above the mesa, across the desert landscape, strange lights and unidentified aircraft have been seen for decades. Which leads to another question. If Dulce's operations are truly hidden, why do the skies above it seem to reveal signs of what lies below? Many locals whisper that a secret base is buried under Archuleta Mesa, which overlooks the small town of Dulce. Some say it's operated by aliens working alongside the U.S. government on mind control and genetic experiments. But despite countless claims of UFOs, cattle mutilations, and secret chambers, one issue continues to shadow the entire story: the absence of hard proof. No photographs of tunnels, no official blueprints, and no verifiable documents have ever surfaced. On paper, there's nothing that confirms Dulce Base exists at all, and yet the legend refuses to fade. Part of that endurance comes from how consistent eyewitness reports have been. Ranchers, police officers, UFO researchers, and travelers have all reported the same things over the decades: glowing lights in the sky, black helicopters, mutilated livestock, and underground activity. Even those who reject the more extreme stories admit that it's hard to ignore how often the same details appear across unrelated witnesses. While testimony alone isn't proof, when dozens of people across generations describe the same events, it starts to feel like evidence of something that might still be buried beneath Archuleta Mesa. According to one account, we were living on the beach in Pacific Palisades. I walked up to the window one night and noticed a light on the horizon that I'd never seen before. I'd lived by the ocean my whole life, and it wasn't a boat, nor was it a star. I just stood there watching this craft. Then, suddenly, it shot upward into the stars and vanished. I went to bed as usual, but later that night I woke up and realized I was no longer in my bed. I was naked and completely paralyzed. The beings I saw were around 3.5 feet tall. They were unclothed, pale in color, not gray, and had large heads, huge black wraparound eyes, and very small bodies. Then come the declassified government files that add fuel to the story. In the late 20th century, documents released under the Freedom of Information Act exposed a series of secret military programs scattered across New Mexico. Some confirmed the presence of underground facilities used for weapons testing and storage. Others hinted at experimental research involving electromagnetic technology. While none mentioned Dulce by name, these records proved that underground bases were not just speculation, they existed. For believers, this was the missing link. If the government built hidden facilities elsewhere, why not one here? Skeptics, on the other hand, push back strongly. They argue that Dulce has become a magnet for conspiracy theories, blending UFO folklore, Cold War fears, and Native American mythology into one sensational story. In their view, the cattle mutilations are caused by predators or disease. The strange lights are aircraft or satellites. The helicopters are nothing more than military exercises, and the so-called underground beings from Apache legend are simply myths revived by modern imagination. Without physical evidence, critics insist Dulce is not a secret base, it's just a story. But believers respond with a paradox. They claim the very lack of evidence is proof that something is being covered up. If Dulce were just a myth, they ask, why has the government never fully debunked it? Why do strange sightings keep happening in the same area, generation after generation? And why do investigators so often report being followed, threatened, or warned to stop? To those who believe, this silence isn't skepticism, it's part of the cover-up itself. Dulce remains suspended between fact and folklore. There are no photographs, no undeniable proof, and no official admission. Yet the consistency of witness stories, the secrecy of government programs, and the strength of local legends keep the mystery alive. These abduction accounts are seen by some as part of a much bigger plan, one that has been unfolding for a very long time. What we're experiencing now, they say, is the next stage. Humanity realizing it is not alone and preparing for the return of those beings, just as ancient texts have claimed they promised. In the end, skeptics dismiss Dulce as pure fantasy, while believers insist the truth is buried too deep to ever be revealed. Most stories fade with time, legends eventually burn out, but Dulce never did. From the late 1970s onward, whispers of underground battles, alien laboratories, and hybrid experiments beneath Archuleta Mesa refused to die. Instead, they grew stronger. Even skeptics admit it's strange. Most conspiracy theories rise and fall, but Dulce persisted, changing with time, yet always circling back to one haunting idea. Something is buried under that mesa. Part of Dulce's endurance lies in what it represents. The story isn't only about aliens, it's about power. At its core, it suggests that governments might be experimenting on citizens, concealing truths, and hiding technologies that could change the world. The aliens are almost secondary. The deeper fear lies in people stripped of control, locked away, experimented on, and left in the dark. The roots of the mystery stretch even deeper than modern UFO lore. The Jicarilla Apache Nation, whose land covers this region, has long told stories about underground beings and hidden realms. Dulce didn't invent those tales, it inherited them. Then it combined them with Cold War secrecy and modern reports of strange lights, animal mutilations, and unmarked helicopters. Critics say Dulce survives because it's the perfect story, a mix of science fiction, horror, and distrust of authority. But believers ask another question. If nothing exists there, why has the legend never faded? Why does it still inspire fear? That is Dulce's lasting legacy. Whether it's truth or myth, it continues to whisper one chilling message: someone else is in control. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. See you next time.